এ বদ্দা, তো এটা তুমি আগে বলবা না? This is exactly how the young generation, particularly the young men of today's generation, would react to the Supreme Court's verdict of asking us not to burn firecrackers, not to burst firecrackers during Shama Puja, during Kali Puja, or during Diwali. So, so this is how the young men would react to the Supreme Court right. And when the Supreme Court passed the verdict that there would be no buying or selling of firecrackers during this Kali Puja, this is how the young men and women would react to the judges of Supreme Court or Supreme Court verdict. And how would they react? How would the young men react to Supreme Court's verdict on firecrackers? এ বদ্দা, এটা তুমি আগে বলবা না? so 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 they are the young men are visibly upset yesterday, should I say the last night. And the thing that we need to understand, the thing that worries me, the thing that makes me think, the thing that gets me thinking is, why are they upset? It's not that they are asked that they won't be given government jobs. It's not that they are asked that they would not be allowed to oh, hop pandals or something like that. But then why are they upset? And given the experience that I had last night, I kept hearing firecrackers being burst all around me. I kept hearing firecrackers being exploded all around me throughout the whole night of Shama Puja, or in Kali Puja, as in Bengali is love to call it. Now, why? I have two questions. That is, why are men upset with this Supreme Court trial, and why do they defy that Supreme Court verdict by firing even more crackers than they would otherwise do? Now, the answer is very simple. The answer is very, very simple. Men can ride motorbikes without helmets. Men can do drugs. Men can jump from top of the building. Men can beat women. Men can abuse and swear and use all kinds of expletives and cursing words. Men can chew gutkhas and tobaccos. Men can even abuse themselves as well. Men can shout at the top of their voice. So the sound is something that is probably opposite to femininity and also opposite to music. So men love sound. Men love sound, and even if we see the distinction between the firecrackers, there are crackers like those which sound a little noisier than the others. There is a gendered binarization between those firecrackers. There are firecrackers which are cracked by men, and there are firecrackers which are not as noisy as those others. They are enjoyed by women. So even the firecrackers are also gendered. Even the firecrackers are also sexed and gendered. And depending on the kind of decimal that they invoke or that they generate. So if the firecrackers invokes plenty of decibels, I mean it's gendered male, and if it is doesn't, then if it's not creating decibels, then it's obviously gendered female. So I see gender everywhere. Even I could see gender, even in the way it creates noise. So, since men love noise, men like to create noise, so much so that they also like silence in women, so that their noise could become audible, their noise could find audibility to us. So, and if they are not audible, if the men cannot become audible, what do? They do two things. Either they silence women, and or they shout even more on top of their voices. So those firecrackers, if they were not burst, let's take an hypothetical theorem. Therefore, if the main last night didn't burst or hadn't burst firecrackers, what would have happened? Yes, it would have compromised their masculinity. Mm, it would have compromised their masculinity. And how would that compromise their masculinity? Because they associate their gendered identity along the lines of the sound that they create. I'm giving you one more example. I'm giving you one more easier example, then we can go back to firecrackers and masculinity. The example is that a bike. You see, most of the bikes are associated with oxen or bulls. How many bikes have you found which are associated in popular advertisement with cows? So clearly bikes are gendered masculine, and hence the whole configuration, the whole idea of masculinity is directly and sometimes even indirectly related to bike and the code. So what is bike? Bike is not a vehicle. Bike has never been a vehicle. I'll say it again. Bike is not a vehicle. Bike has never been a vehicle. No, bike isn't a vehicle. Bike is a code of masculinity. Bike is a cultural code in which masculinity has always already been encoded. And what I am trying to do here in this shoot is to be able to decode the masculinity into which bike has already always been coded or codified. Now, since bike has always already been a cultural code, and hence the bikes are called hunks, the bulls, the oxen. These are the creatures that are popularly associated. Even if we see social media, even we see advertisements in television. What does television tell you? Television tells you that bike is ox. What does television tell you? Television tells you that bike is bull. What does television tell you? Bike is hunk. What does television tell you? Bike is risk. What does television tell you? Bike is masculinity. What does television tell you? Television tells you bike is mardangi. So unless you associate mardangi with bike and bike with masculinity, you won't be able to encode the culture of masculinity into bike and bike into the culture of masculinity. So, since therefore we can understand very clearly that bike encodes or codifies masculinity, the cultural rubric of masculinity. Therefore, when a boy or a man rides a bike, ideally without helmet, because if he wears the helmet, then he is protecting his body. And if he is protecting his body, then he is telling the world that I have a body to protect. But man doesn't have a body. Man's body is gas. And that's why I love to use in Bengali Jatro Tatra Mutro. That's in English is, the men have converted the whole public place into their toilet. The streets are toilet for men. The roads are toilet for men. The highways are toilets for men. The alleys are toilets for men. Any space that is public is toilet for men. So all men are entitled to pee in public place absolutely shamelessly because they do not have a body. They are gas. So since they do not have a body, so no one would see them peeing in public. And that's why they find so much confidence in peeing in public as if they are Mr. India, as if they are invisible, as if no one is watching them, as if even if we are watching them, we won't be able to find them because man is gas. Man is invisible gender. No one can see man, only we can see women. Women are visible gender, women are spectacular gender. And therefore, men are always associated with bike. Now, going back to bike, because I have to go back to from bike to firecracker and to wrap this shoot up. So going back to bike, what does bike do? Bike actually connects masculinity with its own commodification. Now, since it is associated or since it goes into the making of masculinity, so bike is associated with sound. So whenever someone rides a bike, someone drives a bike without helmet, therefore he creates a noise. See, imagine these bikes. I have seen plenty of men love to ride a bike without silencer. In fact, they celebrate riding bike without silencer because the more they will create the noise while biking, the greater they could celebrate their masculinity in public. Think about this for a while. And the more they could create the noise in public with their bike, the more they would be able to celebrate that, hey, I am a man. We are men riding bikes because we create noise. And since we create noise and plenty and plenty and plenty of noise, so we are not only men, we are Superman, we are Batman, we are Hanuman. So these Batman, this Superman, this Spider-Man, this Hanuman, all these kind of men, they are riders out to create noise. And when they cannot create noise, they create silence in women so that their noise finds audibility to our culture, to our heterosexual, heteronormative, heteropatriarchal culture. And finally, to wrap up this YouTube shoot, I have to conclude by way of going back to the discussion with which I had started this video, that is firecrackers and man and men and masculinity. So similarly, had the men listened to the court's order, so the High Court's order, that please don't burst firecrackers, they would not have created noise. So men would not drink in Kali Puja night. Men would not burst firecrackers in Kali Puja night. Men would not create what in Bengali called bawal in Kali Puja night. Men would not create noisy slangs, expletives, and abuses with a drunken state riding on a bike in Kali Puja night. Men would never burst loud firecrackers in Kali Puja night. So would they remain men? In their head, those men would think that they are not remaining men because they are not creating noise, or they are not creating noise enough to tell the world that we are men. And these noises are not noises. These noises of bikes, these noises of firecrackers are not noises of bikes and firecrackers. These are noises of masculinity. So these bikes are creating music of masculinity. And these firecrackers also in the last night created the music of masculinity. So this is not a noise for them, these bikes and these firecrackers. These are music of masculinity. And only the proper true men could listen to that music of masculinity. Boom. and they could celebrate their masculinity throughout the whole night. Thank you. Stay safe. Do not have to become a proper man, and we do not need to hear this music of masculinity anymore. Happy Kali Puja. Thank you.